Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year, as we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market. Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit.
Washington is shifting, and the conversation around Trump has moved beyond impeachment. For the first time in a serious, sustained way, lawmakers and commentators are raising the 25th Amendment, the constitutional mechanism that allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare a president unfit to serve, bypassing the lengthy impeachment process entirely. No trial, no two-thirds Senate vote, just a cabinet decision. Why now? Because the accumulation of crises, controversies, and increasingly erratic behavior has crossed a threshold. The question is no longer just, did Trump do something impeachable? It's, is he mentally and constitutionally capable of continuing to serve as president at all? That is a fundamentally different conversation, and the fact that it's happening openly in mainstream political discourse tells you everything about where things stand.
From using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act.
Washington is no longer just talking about impeachment. They're talking about the 25th Amendment, and that tells you everything about where things stand. Senator Ed Markey formally called for Trump's removal after reports surfaced that Trump personally messaged Norway's prime minister, explaining his interest in seizing Greenland was driven by his frustration over not winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Let that sink in. The President of the United States reached out to a foreign leader to justify territorial ambitions based on a personal grudge over an award. Representatives Yasemin Ansari and Sidney Kamlager-Dove followed, urging VP J.D. Vance and the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment immediately. Will it happen? Realistically, no, not with a cabinet loyal to Trump. But that's not the point. When sitting senators and representatives formally raise the 25th Amendment on the congressional record, it stops being fringe chatter. It becomes an official assessment of the president's fitness. And that shapes everything going into 2026. The case for impeachment runs parallel. Trump launched unauthorized military strikes in Venezuela, captured Maduro, and seized oil assets, all without congressional approval. The Supreme Court just ruled his emergency tariff powers unconstitutional, and he immediately imposed new tariffs under different authority, which experts are calling open defiance of the court. Representatives Ramirez, Omar, and Maxine Waters, once skeptical of another impeachment, are now openly pushing for it. Representative Ramirez went further, accusing Trump and his team of committing war crimes for Venezuelan oil. These are two separate constitutional mechanisms being deployed simultaneously, and that has never happened before at this scale. Impeachment addresses whether Trump committed high crimes and misdemeanors. The 25th Amendment asks whether he is mentally and physically capable of serving at all. The evidence lawmakers are pointing to on that second question: 160 social media posts in 5 hours in the middle of the night, filled with apocalyptic imagery, racist content, and conspiracy theories. The Nobel Prize text to Norway, the Greenland obsession, the widening gap between his statements and reality. Here's what makes all of this politically explosive. Trump himself told House Republicans that if they lose the midterms, he'll be impeached. He didn't deny the charges. He didn't argue his innocence. He just said partisan loyalty is the only thing standing between him and removal. That admission hands Democrats a ready-made campaign message. A vote for the Republican candidate is a vote to shield Trump from accountability. A vote for the Democrat is a vote to enforce it. For swing voters who believe no one is above the law, Trump made the argument for the other side himself. The 2026 midterms are no longer a standard party referendum. They are a direct vote on whether the American people want a government that holds its leaders accountable, or one that protects them from it. Trump told you the stakes. He just didn't realize he was doing it.
US President Donald Trump says he's terminating trade talks with Canada over an ad featuring the words of former US President Ronald Reagan. Ontario's provincial government released the ad with audio from Reagan's 1987 speech, where he said tariffs hurt American workers and consumers. In a social media post, President Trump called the ad fake and announced the end of negotiations. Paula Newton is back with us this hour. And Paula, we were just hearing from Mark Carney before he boarded a plane to Asia a short time ago. Tell us what we heard.
Well, what we heard is that a lot of this is not in Canada's control. It is a sobering message, not just for Canadians, but for others trying to get a good trade deal with the United States, or making sure that any agreement that is signed is not changed via social media posts.
2 moments this week that tell you exactly where things stand. First, Trump pulled the plug on U.S.-Canada trade negotiations, not over policy, not over economics, but because Ontario ran an ad featuring a 1987 Ronald Reagan speech, warning that tariffs hurt American workers and consumers. Trump called it fake on social media and declared talks over. Canadian PM Mark Carney put it plainly. A lot of this is out of Canada's hands. And that's the real problem. When any trade agreement can be killed by a social media post at 2 a.m., no serious partner can negotiate in good faith. Then came February 23rd at the White House briefing room. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt walked in facing a room full of reporters armed with official sources, documented facts, and direct contradictions to the administration's own statements. She had no answers. The contradictions kept piling up. And then she snapped, yelling at reporters, ejecting them from the room, and storming off the podium on live television in front of the entire country. Not a policy debate. Not a tough question she handled poorly. A full, visible meltdown, broadcast live to millions. 2 moments. 1 week. A president ending trade talks over a vintage Reagan clip. A press secretary losing control in front of the nation. This is what governing looks like right now.
For months, we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed.
It seems now that that is off the table. I mean, Christina, look, the Prime Minister was very clear yesterday. He tried to raise the Prime Minister on the phone just to try and talk about a World Series bet. And even that didn't work out for him. He wasn't able to get that call in. So we will see if any communication happens on these long flights.
In just 12 minutes, the White House press briefing on February 23rd became one of the most chaotic moments in modern presidential history, and 22 million people watched it happen. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt opened by claiming Trump's tariffs had created 500,000 American jobs. A reporter immediately cited official Labor Department data from Trump's own administration showing the tariffs had actually cost 300,000 jobs. Leavitt called the data fake, attacked the reporter, and ejected him from the room on live television. That clip alone went viral within hours. Then a second reporter asked whether Congress had been properly briefed before the Iran military strikes. A straightforward constitutional question. Leavitt insisted Congress was fully informed. The problem? Republican Senator John Thune had publicly stated the opposite just the day before, calling the briefing insufficient and saying proper procedures weren't followed. When the reporter cited Thune's statement, Leavitt called him a traitor to America, on camera, in front of the entire press corps. 12 minutes in, she walked off the podium. Briefing over. The hashtag #LeavittLies trended with over 1.2 million posts. The footage is brutal. You can see the exact moment she realizes she's been caught, the panic setting in, and the decision to lash out rather than defend her position with facts. That's not what a confident spokesperson looks like. That's what cornered looks like. And the timing couldn't be worse. This happened the night before Trump's State of the Union address, the one moment where he needs to project strength, credibility, and control. Instead, the backdrop heading into that speech is this: a press secretary caught lying about job numbers, a Republican senator called a traitor by his own party's White House, reporters physically removed for citing government data, an attorney general humiliated in Congress, a witness testifying Trump ordered hush money, Canada rejecting his tariffs, his own party voting against him, and Fox News cutting him off live. Tomorrow night, Trump has to stand at that podium and tell America everything is fine. Nobody's going to believe him.
I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were
face?
following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim.
Attorney General Pam Bondi is now facing a potential criminal investigation, and it all stems from what happened under oath in a nationally televised congressional hearing. On February 24, 2026, Representatives Ted Lieu and Dan Goldman formally requested a special counsel to investigate whether Bondi committed perjury during her House Judiciary Committee testimony on the Epstein files. This isn't a political talking point. It's a formal legal referral rooted in what millions of Americans watched happen in real time. Here's what went down. Bondi sat before Congress, raised her right hand, and swore to tell the truth. She then stated, under oath, that there was no evidence of Trump committing any crime in the Epstein files. That was her position. Congressman Ted Lieu then pulled out the actual released Justice Department documents, right there in the hearing room, and showed that Trump's name appeared repeatedly across tips, memos, and allegations. Not once, multiple times. Bondi looked at the documents and didn't budge. She maintained her answer hadn't changed. Think about what that means. The top law enforcement official in the United States, sworn to tell the truth, sat in front of Congress while a congressman waved the contradicting evidence directly in front of her, and still didn't change her story. That's not a difference of opinion. That's either a deliberate lie under oath or a claim so disconnected from the documents she's responsible for that it raises equally serious questions. Either way, Democrats aren't letting it go, and now the push for a criminal investigation is officially on the record.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's a video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence.
Attorney General Pam Bondi is facing a perjury investigation, and the evidence is coming from her own department. On February 24, 2026, Representatives Ted Lieu and Dan Goldman formally requested a special counsel to investigate whether Bondi lied under oath during her House Judiciary Committee testimony on the Epstein files. This is not political theater. It is a formal criminal referral based on what millions watched happen live. Here's what happened. Bondi sat before Congress, raised her right hand, and swore under oath that there was no evidence of Trump committing any crime in the Epstein files. Congressman Ted Lieu then pulled out the actual released DOJ documents, right there on camera, and walked through them point by point, Trump's name appeared repeatedly across tips, memos, and allegations, including a DOJ presentation summarizing an assault allegation and an eyewitness account of Epstein introducing a young woman to Trump. Bondi looked at the documents and didn't budge. Her answer, she said, stood. That moment triggered the perjury referral. The reason Lieu and Goldman are requesting a special counsel rather than an internal DOJ review is straightforward. Bondi runs the DOJ. Asking her department to investigate whether she lied is like asking a student to grade their own exam. The special counsel mechanism exists precisely for this conflict of interest. Will it happen under this administration? Almost certainly not. Bondi would have to appoint the investigator herself. But that's not the point. The formal request is now on the congressional record. It creates a paper trail that doesn't disappear. If the political landscape shifts, a new Congress, a new administration, that letter and the documented evidence behind it can be revived at any time. This also isn't the first time Bondi's independence has been questioned. When she was Florida's Attorney General, her office dropped a potential fraud case against Trump University shortly after the Trump Foundation made a $25,000 donation, later ruled an illegal contribution, to a group supporting her re-election. Trump paid a penalty. Bondi denied any connection. The timing has never stopped raising eyebrows. Now, years later, she's sitting before Congress again, and again making statements that protect Trump while contradicting the evidence in front of her. One important note: viral videos showing Bondi being arrested or caught removing evidence from a courthouse are fictional dramatizations, clearly labeled as such by their creators. They are not real. But here's the irony. The reason those videos get millions of views is that the actual story is nearly as dramatic. A sitting attorney general formally accused by Congress of lying under oath to protect the president about one of the most infamous sex trafficking cases in American history. The real story doesn't need embellishment. The documents exist. The testimony is on record. The formal criminal referral has been filed. And every day that passes, the gap between what Bondi said under oath and what those files actually show becomes harder to explain away.